The following is a YouTube-based audio production, brought to you by J.E. Realize. Hello, this is J.E. Realize. You see, a few weeks ago here in California, Governor Gavin Newsom issued a mandatory stay-at-home order across the state, telling people to only leave the house to pick up essential supplies or to attend work or school. And who says our governor is an idiot? That limited a lot of content I was planning to release for Birthdapril. But I thought my flagship video on the Olympics would be fine, right? That is to say, until the Olympics were postponed to next year. As such, it wouldn't be right to release that video this year. I'll clean it up ahead of next year's release. But now what? I need a new flagship, and I wasn't going to stand for sitting on this couch as my sisters recorded me on an 11-year-old digital camera, as is what's happening now. However, I thought of something. Eurovision is also cancelled. However, Hungary did still select the song through the national final they usually use to select a song for Eurovision. That gave me an idea. Many songs selected for representation in the Eurovision Song Contest never make it to the contest, either because of shenanigans on the part of the country sending in the song, the host country of that year, or anything else. And in other cases, like the aforementioned Hungarian entry, they're not intended to go to Eurovision at all. So for this list, I've decided to go back in time and gather as many songs meant for Eurovision that didn't make it. These only include songs that were selected for Eurovision or through a national final traditionally used to select Eurovision songs, but were pulled out or disqualified without getting replaced by the host broadcaster. Mostly. Sorry, Heart of Stone and Un Giorno Mi Darai fans, your songs are not included on this list. Also, Tunisia is not included. Don't ask. I've limited this to one per country, and not every notable song that pops in your head may be included. And this is going in alphabetical order by country. Let's begin. Albania. The following song was not going to advance to Eurovision. You see, Albania, along with Belarus, Serbia, and Montenegro, and Ukraine, planned to compete in the 2003 Eurovision Song Contest, but the EBU relegated less countries than planned, and only Ukraine was able to participate. The only reason I'm including Albania here is because the national selection process for Albania's entry is the Festivali Hengis, which has existed since 1962. The song that won the 2002 edition, because the festival is held the December before the ESC, was Brenda Vetes Memer by Mira Conci. There's no guarantee that this song would have made it to Eurovision anyway, had Albania been entered for 2003, but there's a song I'd advise you to research. Australia. This shouldn't count for my list either, because I would be setting a dangerous precedent for this list. In 2014, the host broadcasters of the ESC that year allowed Australian broadcaster SBS to send someone to represent Australia in the second semi-final interval act. Jessica Mauboy was sent over to Copenhagen with the song Sea of Flags. While this didn't compete in the contest, and the snippet given during the interval act is just that, a snippet, there is a near 4-minute long extended cut of the song out there. Also, Mauboy would go to Eurovision for realsies in 2018 for points this time. So there you go. Cyprus. Cyprus had selected a song for the 1988 contest, Thimame by Yannis Dumitru. The problem is, it wasn't new. The song participated in the Cypriot national final of 1984, scoring third. And according to Eurovision rules, any song widely released before September of the year before the contest is ineligible to compete. Denmark. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to talk about the 1996 pre-qualification round. Actually, my past self can talk about it. In 1996, the EBU tried something. Instead of relegating the bad songs every other year, why not listen to each song and select the best to compete that year? Sounds good, and 29 countries sent out their entries. We done? Cool. Denmark was among the unlucky 7 to fail to qualify for the contest in Oslo. The song they planned to send in was Hundmiddag by Dorothy Anderson and Martin Loft. The other countries that failed to qualify were Germany, Hungary, Israel, North Macedonia, Romania, and Russia, with some of their songs also being on this list. Estonia. Enough about the 1996 contest. What about the 1993 contest? The slightly less controversial 1993 contest had a pre-qualification round, but unlike in 1996, this event was televised. Estonia, along with 6 other countries new to Eurovision, would send in entries, and the top 3 would advance to Mill Street. Estonia sent the song Muritud Medja Sudametud by Janika Silama, which failed to qualify. But at least you got some international airtime, right? France. France was ready to compete with the song La Vie Avant 5 Ans by Danny, but days before the contest was held, French President Georges Pompidou died, and out of respect for the man, the broadcaster refused to participate in or broadcast the contest. Danny was still in attendance at the contest. Bless her heart. I'd like to note, though, that in 2000, the Dutch broadcaster Anna Oxa cut the broadcast of the Eurovision Song Contest to cover the ensue fireworks disaster. Nothing would have stopped France from competing while not broadcasting the event live to their people. Georgia. The 2009 Eurovision Song Contest was to be hosted in Moscow. Don't forget that. For that same contest, Georgia, the country, held a national final to select its representative, and Stefano and 3G, with the song We Don't Want to Put In, was selected. Now, some Eurovision fans know this story already, so I recommend to them to skip to the next section. For those who don't, basically some people noted the subtle political undertones of the song's lyrics, mainly that it was targeting Vladimir Putin, a man that needs no introduction, and the EBU requested the Georgian broadcaster to have the lyrics changed. The broadcaster instead withdrew, not knowing that the act intended for political controversy. If only they knew. To those curious, second place went to Hangout by Ketty... I'm not even going to pronounce that. Imagine that in the contest. They dodged a bullet there. Germany. Germany has maintained a near flawless qualification record, entering 63 out of 64 times. The one time where it failed was in the infamous 1996 pre-qualification round. The song Planet of Blue by Leon was selected by a strong plurality in the German national final, but missed out on entering Eurovision through the audio-only jury-decided pre-qualification round. Due to the backlash of kicking out one of the EBU's main financial contributors, this format was never used again, and the 4 biggest contributors to the EBU were deemed safe to enter from 2000 on. Greece. Greece had withdrawn from the Eurovision Song Contest twice after selecting an entry. And no, I'm not counting 2020 since that contest never took place. In 1982, Greece selected Sarantapeteko by Themis Adamadidis, but the EBU rejected the song and the broadcaster for the song being a cover, which is not allowed in Eurovision. In 1986, Greece selected Wagon Lit by Polina, but Greece withdrew because of religious reasons. Hey, at least they weren't political reasons. Hungary. I've mentioned their national final already. Hungary held their national final a dal, as usual, but focused it on growing Hungarian talent rather than sending something to Eurovision. As such, the show wasn't as watched as usual. But in the end, Mostantol by Ratsgerge and Orsavairen won. At least they dodged a bullet by not focusing on a Eurovision performance. Honorable mention goes to their 1996 entry, which narrowly failed to qualify by tiebreaker rules that favored Finland. Israel. 1996. Galit Bell, Shalom Olam, Moving On. Italy. The Sanremo festival in Italy arguably inspired the Eurovision Song Contest, but nowadays, while the winning song of Sanremo is offered to go to Eurovision to represent Italy, this was not always the case. That being said, I can't find any entry that reasonably would have moved on from qualifying through Sanremo to the ESC. No country withdrawals with songs on the line took place, and I'm not going to list every winner of Sanremo in either the Big Artists or New Artists category for the years that Italy didn't compete and suggest they could have gone. But I highly recommend you take a look for yourself, especially if you like Italian language music. Lebanon. Lebanon has yet to enter the Eurovision Song Contest, but at one point they were planning to. In 2004, the Lebanese broadcaster Tele Liban, a member of the EBU, announced they were going to send in an entry for the 2005 contest, later announcing the song Quantu Senfui by Aline Lahoud as their choice. However, in mid-March of 2005, Lebanon withdrew, and the EBU punished Tele Liban for that. One popular opinion is that Lebanon withdrew because Israel was also competing, and the EBU pressured Lebanon into assuring the EBU that Lebanon will broadcast all entries of the contest uninterrupted and unadulterated. The problem is, what with Israel's reputation in the Middle East, the Lebanese broadcaster was not allowed by their government to broadcast Israeli content. That's a shame, because both Israel's and Lebanon's entries that year would have made for a very interesting clash of styles. Or should that's how you pronounce it? Okay, Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein? Liechtenstein is yet to enter the contest, mainly because they don't have an EBU broadcasting member based in Liechtenstein. In fact, they never had, but that didn't stop them from trying. In 1976, they announced that they would compete with the song Little Cowboy by Biggie Bachman, but yeah, you need to be an EBU member to compete in Eurovision unless you can strike up a deal with the EBU. And Liechtenstein is a pretty small country, so how are they going to get the money for membership? No known version of this song has been discovered, so I guess break a leg. So in absence of that, I'll say that the song Un Beau Matin by Vetti was rumored to be Liechtenstein's choice to represent them in 1969, but no confirmation exists. But at least the song can be found online. Malta. Let's talk about Enzo Guzman. Poor guy. In the 1970s, he won 2 Maltese national finals for 2 different years, getting the chance to represent his country in both. But in both years, Malta withdrew. In 1974, Guzman would have gone with Peace to the World, and in 1976 with singer-song Country Boy. Nothing is really known about why Malta withdrew those years, but sadly, Enzo Guzman would never get to go to Eurovision. Montenegro. Admittedly, I'm cheating a bit. Back in 2006, Serbia and Montenegro, the country, not the countries, was to select an entry to represent them in the contest. According to the votes, no-name representatives of the prior contest won the national final again with the song Moja Ljubavi. But the national final had all sorts of bias, namely block voting. 4 Serbian jurors and 4 Montenegrin jurors voted for their favorites, and most jurors voted for their side songs. Moja Ljubavi was sent from Montenegro, receiving 12 points from each Montenegrin juror, and hardly anything from the Serbian jurors, but it was enough. Or so we thought. More on this when we get to Serbia. North Macedonia. Remember Calliope? Yes, that Calliope. It's time to mention 1996 again, and her country put her forward as North Macedonia's representative with Samoti. She didn't get through, which is a shame because if she did and yet performed in 2012 and 2016, she'd join an elite class of Eurovision representatives. Norway. Norway has used its national final, the Melody Grand Prix, every time to select their Eurovision representative except for one. That year was in 1991, when the Norwegian broadcaster NRK received entries for the national final and did not like what it got, instead opting for an internal selection while revamping the MGP for 1992. Of course, with a decision like this, no songs from MGP 1991 have been revealed for discretion purposes. After all, you don't want to pull a Cyprus and send the same song again. Portugal. The Festival da Canção has served as Portugal's national final for Eurovision for about as long as Portugal was in Eurovision, but sometimes the contest is still held despite none of the participants being promised a Eurovision opportunity. You might expect that since Portugal didn't compete in 2013 or 2016, I'd include the song from there, but the festival wasn't held then. Sorry. But it was held in 2000, which along with 1970 was a year the festival was held without the winner going to Eurovision. In this instance, it was won by Sonos Mágicos by Liana. How nice. Honorable mention to Onde Vas Rio que eu Canto by Sergio Borges, the winner of Festival de Canção 1970. Romania. In 2016, Romania selected Moment of Silence by Ovidiu Anton through a national final to represent them in Eurovision. The problem is, on April that same year, the EBU pulled the plug on their national broadcasters, TVR's, license to broadcast Eurovision Network content. The EBU cited unpaid debts to the EBU over the previous 10 years, totaling about $16 million. The EBU had also stated that they sent many notices to TVR to pay it off and took such drastic action because they thought of no other choice. Needless to say, Moment of Silence never made it to the contest, and Anton vowed not to try again. This started a chain of events where the EBU got serious in ensuring every licensed broadcaster was paying their fair share, but at least Romania had worked out a payment plan with the EBU in light of the controversy. Russia. Now we get into some real controversial bits. After what happened in 2014, Russia and Ukraine did not like each other, but this got turned up to 11 when Ukraine won the 2016 contest, and along with that, the right to host the 2017 contest. The Ukrainian broadcaster sent a blacklist of Russian artists to the Russian broadcaster, who in return sent in Yulia Samoylova, a singer in a wheelchair who was not blacklisted, to represent Russia in 2017 with the song Flame is Burning. Ukraine in return said that since Yulia performed in Crimea without going through Ukrainian customs, she can't be broadcast on Ukrainian television until 2020 at the earliest. The EBU proposed a satellite broadcast compromise that neither side liked, and in April Russia withdrew, vowing to send Yulia the next year, which they did, resulting in Russia's first non-qualification for the final since the modern semi-final format was introduced. The EBU later sanctioned the Ukrainian broadcaster for breaking Eurovision host protocol. Serbia. Back to the Serbia and Montenegro story. All 4 Serbian judges gave top points to a Serbian selected song, Ludi Letniji Ples by Flamingosi, but the song received no points from the Montenegrin jurors. None. I mentioned Serbia gave hardly any points to the Montenegrin song from No Name, but hardly any is more than none, so there we go. Yes, I was aware the televote was involved in the decision too, but it only made the margin of victory narrower. The problem is the contest was won in Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, and the audience was in uproar. When the winning song gets booed off stage and the popular vote favorite gets coaxed into performing in the closer, there's no clear idea who won. Not even the EBU wanted to get involved, so the national broadcasters pulled out. Serbia had the last laugh, though. Not only was the national broadcaster allowed to broadcast the event, and Serbia, but not Montenegro, could vote, but when both countries would compete a year later separately, Serbia would win and Montenegro would fail to qualify for the final. Up until 2014. Slovakia. Anyone remember Slovakia? No? Just me? Slovakia, like Estonia, competed in the 1993 pre-qualification round of the Eurovision Song Contest with the song Amnestia na Niveru by Ilan. The song missed qualification by 1 point. As for the pre-qualification round, it was never attempted again. I don't get why not. It's much better than 1996. Okay, who put Tunisia in here? No way in hell am I going to talk about Tunisia. Fine. Tunisia registered to compete for the 1977 contest but withdrew before selecting a song. That's why I didn't include Tunisia on my list. Are you happy now? Turkey. Yeah, I had no idea I could include Turkey on this list until I did some research. Back in 1979, Turkey selected through a national final the song Seviyorum by Maria Rita Epic and 21 Porom. There's just one problem. The contest that year was to be held in Jerusalem, and pressure from neighboring countries to not participate in protest of Israeli shenanigans resulted in a Turkish withdrawal. Enough said. Ukraine. Oh, you thought we were done with them, did you? In 2019, Ukraine held its national final, as usual, and Maruf with the song Siren Song won. The problem is, they didn't go due to contract disagreements. So the national broadcaster, UA:PBC, offered the chance to go to Eurovision to the runner-up, which they refused. So they went to the second runner-up, who refused as well. Because of that, UA:PBC had the right to offer any artist themselves to go, but instead they withdrew from the contest. Well then, that's unusual. At least this wasn't about Russia. At least I hope so. United Kingdom. It's a bit tricky to find a song from the United Kingdom to put on this list, as the UK had an unbroken attendance streak starting in 1959. However, some people have suggested that the United Kingdom had a 1956 entry called Little Ship by Shirley Abiker that won a national final. The problem is, the EBU stated that the United Kingdom had no intention to compete in 1956 and debunked everything about that idea. So there's that theory out of the window. So we're done, right? No? There's one more. How? Well, who is it? No, I am done! I am not condemning myself to this. You've gone too far! I am not talking about Justin Timberlake. Yugoslavia? Okay, sure, why not? For the time it has been around, Yugoslavia uses an interesting national final system, where all member states of Yugoslavia send in their own song to compete against each other to determine who should go to Eurovision. Very federal. Yugoslavia didn't compete in 1985. because of the contest being held on the same day as the 5th anniversary of the death of Josip Broz Tito. However, some people cite Pokora by Zorica Gonča and Josip Genda as the intended choice that year. Although, if Yugoslavia intended not to enter, that makes no sense. Also, there was no record of the Yugoslav national final being held on that year, so... Well, that means I guess we're done. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, whatever you do on YouTube these days, and I'll see you next time. Or talk to you next time. Audio broadcasts are weird. This concludes our YouTube-based audio production. I hope you enjoy, and I wish you farewell.